Before we dive into the shadows of geopolitics and the secrets that shape our world, take a moment to breathe. What if the truth you've been told is only half the story? What if justice, power, and destiny are being written in silence, far from the headlines? This isn't just about nations. It's about the unseen forces that shape our lives, our choices, our futures. Stay with me not just to learn, but to awaken. Because what you're about to hear will challenge your beliefs, stir your spirit, and reveal a hidden world operating just beyond the edge of your awareness. In recent years, India has increasingly come under scrutiny for alleged covert operations aimed at neutralizing individuals considered threats to national security. These operations are said to be carried out in absolute secrecy, beyond the reach of conventional law enforcement or judicial oversight. Targets often include individuals accused of promoting separatist ideologies, terrorism, or acting against the interests of the Indian state, particularly those based abroad. The allegations gained traction after reports surfaced from countries like Canada, the United Kingdom, and the United States, where individuals linked to separatist movements were either found dead under mysterious circumstances or claimed to have been targeted. These incidents triggered diplomatic tensions, with some foreign governments launching investigations into the suspected involvement of Indian operatives or intelligence-linked actors. Unlike traditional military engagements or counterterrorism actions conducted openly, these operations allegedly fall into the category of deniable missions, carried out without acknowledgement or direct traceability. The goal appears to be simple: eliminate a threat quietly, without geopolitical fallout or legal entanglement. The methodology borrows elements from shadow warfare, involving undercover agents, third-party contractors, or cyber intelligence assets. These accusations are not isolated. Instead, they follow a pattern that suggests a broader strategic shift in how the Indian state manages extraterritorial threats. The focus has moved from diplomacy and legal proceedings toward decisive, quiet elimination. Whether this is state-sanctioned or the work of rogue elements remains a matter of debate, but the consistency of the allegations points to an organized structure rather than ad hoc actions. Governments and media outlets across the world have begun to examine whether these incidents mark the rise of a new doctrine in India's foreign policy, a doctrine that prioritizes covert force over public accountability. The absence of official admissions adds to the mystique and to the fear surrounding what some are now calling India's secret death squad. At the center of the allegations surrounding India's covert elimination of enemies are its intelligence agencies, particularly the Research and Analysis Wing, commonly known as RAW. Established in 1968, RAW was designed to serve as India's primary external intelligence agency, focusing on threats beyond its borders. Over time, its role has reportedly expanded, becoming more proactive and aggressive in neutralizing threats considered dangerous to national security. RAW operates in a highly secretive environment, with minimal public oversight and limited legislative control. This opacity allows the agency to function with flexibility, particularly in handling sensitive international operations. Apart from RAW, there are suggestions that other smaller units within India's intelligence and military ecosystem are also involved in these missions. These may include elements from the Intelligence Bureau, military intelligence divisions, or specialized tactical cells designed for off-the-record actions. The operational structure is believed to be layered, involving intelligence gathering, digital surveillance, asset recruitment, and finally, execution. Coordination with foreign contacts or non-state actors might be used to avoid direct links to India. Methods allegedly include targeted surveillance, cyber intrusion, and even physical elimination, depending on the nature of the target and location. Operatives may work under diplomatic cover or through unofficial channels, making attribution incredibly difficult. These intelligence units are also reported to maintain active watch lists of individuals abroad, particularly those associated with separatist ideologies, organized crime, or anti-national propaganda. Once a target is identified and sanctioned, the action may involve multiple stages, from location tracking to silent takedown. While none of this has been officially confirmed, leaks, whistleblower reports, and foreign intelligence investigations have repeatedly pointed to RAW and its auxiliary networks as central players. Their methods appear modeled on other elite agencies around the world, operating in the shadows with the singular aim of preserving national interests by any means necessary. A recurring element in the narrative surrounding India's alleged secret operations is the specific targeting of dissidents living outside the country. These individuals are often politically active, vocally critical of the Indian government, or aligned with separatist ideologies such as Khalistan. Many have taken refuge in countries like Canada, the United Kingdom, the United States, and Australia, where they are protected by laws that uphold freedom of speech and political expression. Despite their distance from India, some of these dissidents have found themselves under surveillance, threatened, or even killed under mysterious circumstances. Reports from foreign intelligence agencies and law enforcement departments suggest a pattern in which high-profile figures within these diaspora communities become subjects of interest to Indian intelligence. Some have claimed to be approached by individuals posing as community members or journalists, later discovering they were being tracked or intimidated. The most prominent allegations involve individuals associated with the Khalistan movement, which advocates for a separate Sikh homeland. While India officially considers this movement a national security threat, many of its international supporters insist their activism is peaceful and protected under their host country's laws. The tension arises when these individuals are found dead, injured, or report assassination attempts that remain unresolved by local authorities. Foreign governments have responded with investigations, expulsions of Indian diplomats, and demands for transparency. These actions suggest that the issue is not isolated, but part of a broader concern over extraterritorial intelligence activity. The ability of a foreign nation to influence, intimidate, or eliminate individuals on foreign soil challenges international norms and raises serious questions about sovereignty and legal jurisdiction. What makes these cases particularly complex is the absence of direct evidence linking the Indian state to the incidents. Yet, the recurring nature and geopolitical implications indicate a methodical approach to monitoring and possibly neutralizing foreign-based dissent. The alleged involvement of Indian operatives in covert assassinations or intimidation campaigns abroad has triggered significant diplomatic tensions between India and several Western nations. Countries like Canada, the United States, and the United Kingdom have raised formal concerns over what they describe as unacceptable breaches of sovereignty. These governments have either opened criminal investigations, expelled Indian diplomats, or directly accused India of orchestrating targeted operations on their soil. Canada's public accusation in 2023, where it linked the killing of a Khalistani leader to Indian agents, marked a major turning point. The incident led to a sharp deterioration in bilateral ties, with both countries reducing diplomatic staff and halting certain negotiations. It also prompted wider debates in international forums about how nations should respond when foreign intelligence activities cross into criminal territory. The United States, while more cautious in its public statements, has also acknowledged a credible plot to assassinate a U.S.-based activist and opened investigations into the matter. These developments have placed India in a delicate position, caught between maintaining strong diplomatic relations with its Western partners and defending its counterterrorism strategies. Indian officials have repeatedly denied any involvement in extrajudicial killings, emphasizing their commitment to international law and due process. Still, the situation has complicated India's image as a rising democratic power. On one hand, its strategic partnerships with Western nations are built on shared values of rule of law and mutual respect for sovereignty. On the other, these same partners are now accusing India of undermining those very principles. As the investigations continue, There is growing pressure on both sides to manage the fallout without escalating tensions further. For India, the diplomatic cost of these allegations could extend beyond bilateral relations. It may also affect its long-term role in global governance, trade, and security alliances, where trust and transparency are critical components. One of the most defining characteristics of the alleged operations attributed to India's secret death squad is the use of tactics that leave little to no trace. These missions appear to be designed with deniability as a core feature, relying on methods that obscure the identity of operatives, the chain of command, and the involvement of any official state machinery. The goal is not only to neutralize the target, but to do so in a way that deflects responsibility and avoids international backlash. Victims have reportedly died in ways that initially seem like accidents, natural causes, or unsolved violent crimes. In many cases, local authorities in foreign countries are unable to establish a clear motive, let alone trace the attack back to a foreign government. This level of ambiguity is not accidental. It reflects a strategic approach borrowed from advanced intelligence agencies, where plausible deniability is central to the operation. Key tactics may include the use of shell identities, third-party actors, and indirect communication channels. There are also reports of cyber operations preceding the physical attacks, where targets are digitally monitored, their routines mapped, and vulnerabilities identified. The use of burner phones, encrypted apps, and non-traceable travel routes adds further layers of obfuscation. Even the choice of location and timing appears calibrated to minimize scrutiny and avoid patterns that could link multiple incidents together. What makes these operations especially difficult to investigate is the combination of real-world precision and digital camouflage. Surveillance footage, forensic evidence, and witness statements often yield nothing conclusive. Even when patterns emerge, they lack the concrete proof necessary to hold anyone accountable. Intelligence agencies involved in such missions are trained not only in execution, but in erasure, removing every fingerprint, every digital breadcrumb, and every trace of state involvement. India's alleged use of targeted covert operations bears striking resemblance to the practices of established global intelligence powers such as the CIA, Mossad, and Russia's FSB. These agencies have long histories of conducting extraterritorial missions aimed at eliminating high-value targets considered threats to national security. Now, similar tactics are being attributed to India, signaling a shift in its strategic posture from a primarily defensive intelligence framework to a more assertive and offensive model. Mossad, for example, is known for its precision strikes against individuals involved in terrorism, often operating far beyond Israel's borders. The CIA has been linked to drone strikes and black ops across the Middle East, Asia, and Africa. Russia's FSB and its predecessor agencies have a history of poisoning, shootings, and cyber-based eliminations of dissidents and defectors worldwide. These nations have justified such actions as necessary measures in an evolving threat landscape, where conventional warfare is often ineffective. India's intelligence operations appear to be moving in a similar direction, with reports suggesting an embrace of proactive deterrence. This includes identifying, locating, and neutralizing individuals or networks seen as promoting separatism, terrorism, or anti-state narratives, sometimes in foreign countries. The planning and execution style, marked by stealth, precision, and lack of attribution, mirrors the operational frameworks of these elite agencies. What separates India from the traditional players is the relative novelty of its appearance on this covert stage. Historically, India's intelligence activity was more focused on regional threats, especially in neighboring countries. The expansion into global operations reflects not only a changing security doctrine, but also an assertion of power on the international stage. It suggests an ambition to play by the same rules as other global powers, rules written in the shadows, enforced without courtrooms, and designed to serve national interest through invisible means. Modern covert operations attributed to India's alleged secret death squad are reportedly powered by a sophisticated blend of surveillance technologies. These tools are not just enhancements to traditional spycraft, but central components of how targets are identified, tracked, and ultimately neutralized. The integration of digital surveillance, artificial intelligence, and advanced tracking methods reflects a deep fusion between intelligence and emerging technologies. Key among these tools is real-time geolocation tracking, often sourced from compromised mobile devices, social media metadata, and even smart devices unknowingly sharing location data. Targets may be monitored for weeks or months before any action is taken, allowing operatives to build complete behavioral profiles that include routines, contacts, and potential vulnerabilities. Artificial intelligence and facial recognition systems are reportedly used to scan public surveillance footage or online content for visual identification. This is especially useful when tracking individuals across borders, or in densely populated areas where physical tailing would attract attention. Data scraping from encrypted messaging platforms, browser histories, or cloud storage systems may also play a role in building actionable intelligence without direct human presence. Drones and satellite imagery may supplement on-the-ground surveillance, especially when the operation occurs in countries with strong local law enforcement. These aerial technologies can provide movement patterns, entry and exit points, and even confirm the presence of the target at a specific location in real time. In cases where physical entry is required, cyber tools might be used to disable security systems, jam communications, or erase digital footprints post-operation. This tech-first approach enables a high level of precision while reducing operational risk and exposure. The result is a system where intelligence gathering and action are almost entirely digitized, creating an environment where targets can be eliminated with efficiency, silence, and almost no physical trace. The operations allegedly carried out by India's covert units operate in a space where legal frameworks and ethical boundaries are blurred. Extrajudicial killings, especially when conducted on foreign soil, pose serious challenges to international law, sovereignty, and human rights conventions. While national security concerns can justify aggressive intelligence actions within a country's borders, conducting targeted assassinations outside of legal oversight and without due process brings into question the legitimacy of such actions. International law, including the UN Charter and various human rights treaties, prohibits the use of force against individuals in another sovereign nation without consent or legal justification. When a country is accused of sending agents to eliminate a person in a foreign territory, it violates that country's sovereignty and undermines the global rule of law. This can escalate into diplomatic crises, legal disputes, and erosion of trust between nations. On the ethical front, the issue becomes even more complex. Supporters of such operations may argue that these actions prevent greater violence or protect innocent lives by eliminating dangerous individuals. However, without transparency, judicial review, or accountability, the line between neutralizing a threat and silencing dissent becomes dangerously thin. Questions arise about who decides the legitimacy of the target, what evidence supports the action, and whether less extreme alternatives were considered. These actions also set precedents. If one country justifies killing its enemies abroad, others may follow, creating a world where state-sponsored killings become normalized. This could lead to a breakdown in the diplomatic processes and legal institutions designed to resolve conflicts through dialogue and cooperation. The covert nature of such missions means that victims rarely get justice, and perpetrators are almost never held accountable. This lack of legal clarity and ethical scrutiny allows powerful states to act without consequences, leaving individuals and communities vulnerable to unchecked power. The alleged operations attributed to India's secret death squad do not exist in a vacuum. They intersect with domestic politics in ways that can yield strategic advantages for those in power. In an increasingly nationalist political environment, actions perceived as bold, decisive, and unapologetically patriotic often resonate deeply with the public. Covert eliminations of individuals labeled as terrorists, separatists, or enemies of the state can be quietly framed as victories, even if not publicly acknowledged. These operations help reinforce the image of a strong, uncompromising government willing to go to great lengths to protect national interests. Politicians may not directly reference these actions, but carefully worded statements and subtle media cues often create an atmosphere of approval and implied success. This narrative plays well with segments of the population that equate national security with strength and diplomacy with weakness. The psychological effect is significant. Even unconfirmed reports of overseas eliminations can serve as deterrents to dissenters and activists, both at home and abroad. It sends a message that distance or foreign citizenship does not offer immunity from state reach. This can reduce vocal opposition while galvanizing domestic support for security-focused governance. Media coverage, particularly from state-aligned or sympathetic outlets, often frames these incidents within a broader storyline of global terrorism and internal threats. By linking targeted individuals to anti-national ideologies or past violent activities, public sympathy is minimized, and the state's actions are implicitly justified. This alignment of covert operations with domestic political messaging enhances the ruling party's narrative of decisive leadership. It allows for the projection of power without direct confrontation, offering political capital that translates into electoral support, especially during times of heightened tension or conflict. While the public may never know the full details, the perception of action is often enough to strengthen a government's standing. The emergence of alleged covert operations by India's intelligence apparatus reflects a broader transformation in how modern states engage in conflict. Traditional warfare, defined by armies, tanks, and open battles, is gradually being replaced by subtler, more precise forms of power projection. In this evolving paradigm, the battlefield is no longer confined to physical territories. It now includes cyberspace, intelligence networks, and the global mobility of both technology and human targets. Instead of deploying large military forces, states are turning to elite units, digital surveillance, and targeted assassinations to neutralize threats before they escalate. This shift allows for faster, quieter, and more deniable operations that minimize diplomatic risks while maximizing impact. These strategies are increasingly becoming tools of statecraft, not just security. Covert action, once reserved for only the most powerful intelligence agencies, is now being used by rising powers to assert their interests without triggering global conflict. Technological advancements have accelerated this transition. Nations can now track individuals across borders using AI, facial recognition, and real-time data extraction. Operations can be executed without setting foot in a country, using drones, cyber attacks, or local proxies. This ability to strike with surgical precision, without leaving a signature, changes the rules of engagement. Such a model is attractive to governments seeking control without open warfare. It allows for geopolitical messaging, demonstrating strength, deterring adversaries, and influencing foreign policy, while staying officially silent. It also blurs the lines between war and peace, diplomacy and aggression, legality and power. The paradigm shift suggests a future where security is not maintained by armies guarding borders, but by digital intelligence eliminating perceived threats before they materialize. As more states adopt this approach, the global landscape of conflict is being reshaped by silent wars waged in shadows, guided by algorithms, and executed with absolute precision. In a world where warfare is no longer waged with armies, but with intelligence, data, and silence, the emergence of covert actions attributed to India signals a strategic shift in global power dynamics. These operations raise critical questions, about sovereignty, ethics, and the cost of unchecked authority. As technology and geopolitics evolve, so too must our understanding of accountability and power. What was once unthinkable is now reality, and reality today is written in code, carried out in shadows, and denied in daylight. Thank you for your attention. Stay curious, question everything, and good luck navigating the future, because it's already here.